My name is Claire Donovan. Before my life split into a before and after, it was simple, predictable even. I worked as a librarian, a job I loved for its quiet order. My days were filled with the soft rustle of turning pages and the comforting smell of old paper. I lived in a small, clean apartment with a cat named Gus and a collection of plants I tried very hard not to kill. My dreams were modest, maybe a small house with a garden someday, a trip to see the coast of Ireland. I saved my money carefully. I paid my bills on time. I believed in the simple math of living an honest life. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? I love seeing how far this story travels. The day the letter arrived, it was just another Tuesday. It looked official, thick and heavy in my stack of mail. I assumed it was some kind of mistake, an offer for a credit card I didn't need. I set it on my kitchen counter and made myself a cup of tea, letting Gus wind around my ankles. It was only later, as the evening light turned the sky a dusty orange, that I finally slid it open. That's when the world tilted. The words inside were a language I didn't understand at first. Principal balance, interest rate, payment schedule. And then, the number, sitting there with an impossible number of zeros after it. $12,000. It was a loan, a massive business loan, and it was in my name. I felt the air leave my lungs in a sudden, sharp gasp. My hands started to shake, rattling the heavy paper. This had to be a mistake. A typo. Some kind of elaborate scam. I read the document again, and then a third time. My name, Claire Donovan. My social security number, my date of birth. Everything was correct, except for the signature at the bottom. It was a messy, looping scrawl that was supposed to be mine, but it wasn't. It was my sister Emily's handwriting. I'd known that cursive since we were children, since she used to forge our mother's signature on school permission slips. The betrayal was a physical thing, a cold stone that settled deep in my stomach. While I was cataloging books and worrying about my ficus plant, my sister had been taking out a debt in my name large enough to buy a city block. My first instinct was to check her social media. It was a masochistic impulse, but I couldn't stop myself. Her page was a perfect, curated highlight reel of success. There she was, laughing on a yacht in the Mediterranean, the water a brilliant, impossible blue behind her. There she was, clinking champagne glasses at a rooftop bar in New York City, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my rent for a year. The captions were all about hard work and dedication. Boss babe, #dream big, #built from scratch. Each picture was a new, fresh stab of pain. She wasn't just living a lie, she was flaunting it. She was dancing on the grave of my financial future, and the world was applauding her for it. The comments were filled with praise. "You're such an inspiration, Emily. Teach me your ways. You deserve all the success." I felt a wave of nausea. Her entire empire, her entire identity as a self-made woman, was funded by my ruin. I knew our relationship had always been strained. Emily was the sun, and I was her shadow. She was loud, ambitious, and charming, the one who always commanded the room. I was quiet, observant, and content with a simpler life. Our parents had always seen her as the star, the one destined for great things, while I was just reliable Claire. But I never imagined she was capable of this. This wasn't just favoritism, this was a complete and utter violation. I decided to confront her at our parents' house the following Sunday. It felt like the safest place, a neutral ground, though I knew deep down it wasn't. When I arrived, the scene was painfully familiar. My father was watching football, my mother was fussing over the roast, and Emily was holding court in the living room, telling a story about a business deal she'd closed. I waited until we were all at the dinner table. My hands were trembling under the table as I placed the loan documents next to my plate. "Emily," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "we need to talk about this." She glanced at the papers, her expression unreadable. "What is it?" "It's a loan," I said, my voice gaining a little strength, "for $1.2 million. It's in my name." The table went silent. My father muted the TV in the other room. My mother stopped cutting her roast, her fork hovering in midair. Emily picked up the top page, scanned it, and then looked at me. A slow, cold smirk spread across her face. It was the most chilling expression I had ever seen. Oh, that, she said, her tone light, almost bored. Don't be so dramatic. Dramatic? I choked out. Emily, this is fraud. This could destroy my life. She leaned forward, her eyes glinting with a cruelty I had never seen so clearly before. Let's be honest, Claire, she said, her voice low and condescending. What kind of life are we talking about? Your little library job, your cat? You wouldn't know what to do with real money anyway. I'm just giving it purpose. I'm building something. Her words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. She wasn't just admitting it. She was justifying it. She saw me as so small, so insignificant, that my entire identity was collateral damage she was entitled to. I looked to my parents, my eyes pleading for them to intervene, to show some outrage. My mother just sighed, shaking her head. Oh, Claire, you always did have a tendency to exaggerate, she said, picking up her fork again. Emily is ambitious. She's making something of herself. I'm sure it's just a temporary business arrangement. My father cleared his throat. Your sister is under a lot of pressure, Claire. Let's not rock the boat. I'm sure she has a plan to pay it all back. They were siding with her. They were actively choosing to believe her glamorous lie over my terrifying truth. In that moment, sitting at my childhood dinner table, I had never felt so completely and utterly alone. I was a stranger in my own family. The calls started a week later. The first one came from a blocked number while I was at work. A man with a flat, impersonal voice informed me that I was 90 days past due on a loan payment of over $25,000. I tried to explain that it was fraudulent, that my identity had been stolen, but he just cut me off. That's what they all say, Ms. Donovan. We'll be expecting payment. After that, the calls were relentless. They came in the morning, in the middle of the night. My phone became a source of constant anxiety. Then came the letters, each one more threatening than the last. My credit score plummeted, and then the final blow, my bank accounts were frozen. I went to buy groceries one afternoon, and my debit card was declined. Declined. The cashier looked at me with a mixture of pity and annoyance. I had to leave a full cart of food behind, my face burning with shame as I walked out of the store. I was living on instant ramen and the few dollars in cash I had in my wallet. I got an eviction notice taped to my apartment door. I was drowning. And through it all, Emily's star continued to rise. The city's biggest newspaper ran a feature on her, calling her a visionary entrepreneur and a philanthropic leader. The article was about her upcoming charity gala, the event of the season, which she was hosting to give back to the community. The irony was so bitter it felt like poison. Her grand night, her celebration of success, was built on the foundation of my despair. That was my breaking point. Huddled in my cold apartment, staring at the eviction notice, something inside me shifted. The panic and despair burned away, leaving behind a core of cold, hard anger. The tears stopped, the pleading stopped. My victimhood was over. I wasn't going to scream anymore. I was going to fight back. I went silent. I stopped answering calls from my parents. I blocked Emily on everything. I spent my nights not in fear, but in research. I sat at my small desk, the glow of the laptop illuminating my face, and I started digging. I pulled every bank record I could find. I requested official copies of the loan agreements. I learned more about financial law than I ever thought possible. The evidence was all there, a clear and undeniable trail of her deception. The loan application, with my forged signature. The bank statements showing the money being transferred directly into a corporate account for Emily Enterprises. The credit card receipts from that account detailing her lavish spending, first-class flights, five-star hotels, designer boutiques. It was a meticulous record of her crime. I found a lawyer through a legal aid service. He was an older man named Mr. Harris, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. I laid out all my documents on his desk. He looked through them carefully, his expression growing more serious with each page. When he was done, he looked up at me and said, "Ms. Donovan, this is one of the most brazen cases of identity fraud I have ever seen. We are going to nail her to the wall." For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. We worked quietly, methodically. Mr. Harris filed the necessary reports with the federal authorities, presenting our evidence. It was all happening in the background, a silent storm gathering on the horizon while Emily remained blissfully unaware, consumed by the final preparations for her perfect night. The night of the gala arrived. It was a cold, clear evening. I saw the news vans parked outside the opulent downtown hotel as I approached. Cameras flashed as guests in tuxedos and glittering gowns stepped out of black cars. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need an invitation. Mr. Harris had arranged everything. I had chosen my outfit with care, a simple, elegant black dress. I wore my hair pulled back. My face was pale, but my hands were steady. I walked into the grand ballroom, my heart pounding a slow, deliberate rhythm against my ribs. The room was a sea of champagne and manufactured smiles. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over everything. In the center of it all was Emily, radiant in a shimmering silver gown, laughing and accepting compliments. She saw me across the room. Her smile tightened for a split second before she composed herself and glided toward me, a predator sensing a challenge. "Claire," she said, her voice a syrupy mix of surprise and disdain. "I'm shocked you could make it. Didn't think debt collectors let you out at night." A few people nearby snickered. The jab was meant to be the final, public humiliation. I didn't rise to the bait. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, my expression calm. Then, I turned my gaze toward the back of the room. Following my line of sight, Emily saw him. A man in a dark, conservative suit, standing quietly by the exit. He wasn't one of the guests. He was a federal officer, and he was waiting for my signal. I calmly handed an unmarked envelope to one of the event staff standing nearby, with a simple instruction. "Please give this to the officer at the podium." The officer intercepted the staff member, took the envelope, and walked directly to the stage. He took the microphone from the MC, who looked utterly bewildered. The music faded. A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," the officer's voice boomed, calm and authoritative, cutting through the noise. "My apologies for the interruption. I have a brief but urgent announcement regarding the funding of tonight's event." Every eye in the room was on him. Emily stood frozen a few feet away from me, her face a mask of confusion. The officer opened the envelope. The $1.2 million loan used to finance this gala, and indeed the entirety of Emily Enterprises, was obtained fraudulently under the name of another individual, Ms. Claire Donovan. A collective, audible gasp swept through the hall. It was a sound I would never forget. The silence that followed was absolute. All at once, every head in the room swiveled to stare, first at a pale, horrified Emily, and then at me, standing silently at the edge of the crowd. Emily's face had drained of every last drop of color. Her perfect smile was gone, replaced by a slack-jawed expression of pure, unadulterated terror. The collapse was immediate and spectacular. The whispers started first, then grew into a roar of conversation. Guests started pulling out their phones, not to take glamorous pictures, but to record the scene. I saw a prominent city councilman, one of Emily's biggest sponsors, turn pale and walk quickly toward the exit while speaking urgently into his phone. The reporters, who had been lazily covering the party, suddenly smelled blood. They swarmed Emily, their cameras flashing like strobe lights, their questions a barrage of accusations. "Emily, is it true? Did you steal from your sister? What do you have to say?" She tried to deny it, stammering out fragments of sentences, but her voice was drowned out. Her perfect night, her moment of ultimate triumph, had turned into her public execution. I watched for a moment longer, a quiet observer to the chaos she had created. There was no joy in it, only a profound, weary sense of justice. My proof had spoken louder than her lies. I turned and walked out of the ballroom, leaving the wreckage of her life behind me. The next morning, the world had shifted again. The news of Emily's arrest was everywhere. My lawyer called to inform me that my accounts were being cleared, the fraudulent debt expunged from my name. Her assets were frozen. The calls I received now were not from debt collectors, but from my parents. I let them go to voicemail. I had nothing left to say to them. I didn't shout, I didn't gloat. I simply took a deep breath of the clean morning air and felt the crushing weight lift from my shoulders for the first time in months. I had my name back. I had my life back. I was free. Betrayal doesn't always need to be met with rage. Sometimes the quiet, undeniable truth is enough to completely and utterly destroy a lifetime of lies. Have you ever been underestimated only to prove them wrong with truth? Hit like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments. Silence paired with proof can be the loudest revenge.